Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to take something that can feel incredibly complex, the core mechanics of biology, and break it down using a really simple everyday analogy. We're going to compare your body, and honestly, the bodies of all living things, to a bustling, never-sleeping factory. It is just a fantastic way to visualize how these foundational life processes actually work. Okay, so let's just dive right into this by asking a seemingly obvious question, but one that biologists actually grapple with. What is the actual difference between a living dog and a non-living object? I mean, if we see a dog running around or a cow chewing cud or, a person shouting, we immediately recognize them as alive. But what if that dog is fast asleep? Or what if we're looking at a plant that doesn't seem to be moving at all? We know they're alive, right? But why? Well, here's the thing. True life isn't just about visible movement. Because of the constant, kind of chaotic effects of the environment, highly organized living structures are always at risk of breaking down. And if that order breaks down, the organism dies. So living creatures have to continuously repair and maintain their cellular structures. It's all about avoiding entropy through this constant, invisible, microscopic molecular movement and repair. To understand how this works, here is our blueprint for today. 1. The ultimate 24/7 factory. 2. Nutrition, the supply chain. 3. Respiration, the power plant. 4. Excretion, waste management. And 5. The invisible miracle. Starting with Part 1, the ultimate 24/7 factory. The absolute core problem our biological factory faces is this: just to stay standing, just to maintain a state of order, even when you are lying perfectly still in bed, your body requires a massive, constant influx of outside energy. This internal maintenance job literally never pauses. Which brings us to Part 2, nutrition, also known as the factory's supply chain. Think of nutrition simply as importing raw materials into your facility. Since life on Earth depends on carbon-based molecules, these external energy sources, what we just call food, are primarily carbon-based. And this process isn't just about getting energy either. If an organism needs to grow or repair damaged tissue, it has to bring fresh raw materials from the outside world inside. Now, depending on their design, organisms handle this importation in a couple of different ways. On one hand, we have autotrophic nutrition. These are your solar-powered factories, like green plants and certain bacteria, which manufacture their own organic food from simple inorganic stuff like carbon dioxide and water, just using the energy of the sun. On the other hand, we have heterotrophic nutrition. These are import-dependent factories, like humans, cows, or even fungi, that have to feed on complex materials already prepared by other organisms. For our autotrophic solar-powered factories, the process of photosynthesis is where light is miraculously turned into chemical supplies. It happens in 4 exact steps. First, the green pigment chlorophyll absorbs light energy. Second, that light energy is transformed into chemical energy. Third, and this is wild, water molecules are literally split apart into hydrogen and oxygen. And fourth, carbon dioxide is reduced and converted into energy-rich carbohydrates. When you zoom deep inside a leaf, you'll find these structures called chloroplasts. They act as the main production floor of our solar factory, where all that chlorophyll resides and the solar energy absorption takes place. Meanwhile, vascular bundles act like the internal transport highways to move the goods around. Moving right along to Part 3, respiration, our factory's power plant. So remember how we imported all those supplies? Well, food is really just fuel sitting in a warehouse. Respiration is the actual combustion process inside the power plant. Your cells use oxidizing-reducing reactions to break down those food molecules. The ultimate goal of this cellular respiration is to convert the biochemical energy from your food into a highly usable chemical compound known as ATP. ATP is basically the usable electricity that powers all your cellular machines. Let's compare the 2 ways you can run these cellular generators. Most organisms run on aerobic respiration, which is highly efficient. It occurs in the presence of oxygen, completely breaking down pyruvic acid into carbon dioxide and water, releasing a ton of energy. But there's also an emergency backup, anaerobic respiration. This happens without oxygen. In microbes like yeast, this backup produces ethyl alcohol, but in human muscle cells, say during an intense sprint, it produces lactic acid, which is exactly why your muscles cramp up when your oxygen supply falls short. And to keep this whole process running, a mechanical ventilation system is absolutely crucial. Think about it. Your ribs moving outward and your diaphragm flattening out when you inhale. It physically pulls in oxygen-rich air. Then, the process reverses during exhalation to expel carbon dioxide. This constant mechanical pumping ensures your power plant always has the oxygen it needs to burn its fuel.
Now on to part 4, excretion, or waste management.
Look, every heavy industrial process creates toxic byproducts. If we don't take out the trash, the factory shuts down permanently. When our chemical reactions use carbon and oxygen for energy generation, they create nitrogenous materials and other byproducts that are totally useless, or sometimes highly toxic. Excretion is the vital biological process of eliminating those harmful metabolic wastes from your body.
Inside your kidneys, which are basically your main waste management facilities, are these microscopic water filtration plants called nephrons. They work tirelessly, day and night, to pull toxic nitrogenous wastes, like urea and uric acid, straight out of your bloodstream. This allows the waste to be gathered in the urinary bladder and safely expelled.
But hey, animals aren't the only ones taking out the trash. Plants have incredibly creative waste disposal methods. They literally use everyday things as their trash cans. They'll store waste products in cellular vacuoles or even in dead tissues like bark. Sometimes they just let leaves fall off entirely, actually throwing the trash away with the leaf. They also secrete organic byproducts as gums, latex, or essential oils like orange or eucalyptus. And here is a wild fact. For a plant, oxygen is actually a waste product of photosynthesis. To deal with this, they have stomata, which act like microscopic exhaust vents on their leaves. They open up to cleverly let out gaseous waste, like oxygen and excess water vapor, while simultaneously bringing in the carbon dioxide they need for their next shift on the production floor. This brings us to our final section, Part 5, the invisible miracle. So the crucial takeaway here is that these life processes, they aren't just isolated chapters in a textbook. Nutrition imports the fuel, respiration burns it, transportation moves the supplies and the garbage around, and excretion takes out the trash. They form a perfectly synchronized industrial loop, a massive coordinated effort happening across all your specialized tissues every single millisecond. I want to leave you with this provocative thought. Right now, as you sit watching this explainer, even if you feel completely relaxed, like you aren't doing anything at all, your internal factory is roaring at full capacity. Millions of nephrons are filtering, trillions of cells are respiring and burning ATP, oxygen is constantly being pumped in. You are a walking, breathing, incredibly efficient 24/7 factory of life. Makes you appreciate just sitting still a little bit more, doesn't it? Thanks for exploring these remarkable processes with me.